The Big Beat Manifesto goes, big beats are the best, get high all the time.
Right. At the time, it felt like a much more all-encompassing philosophy.
Yeah. This is outrageous. This is contagious.
Listen, love, just a little tip, all right? You're on the edge now, and you need to pick the right way. Because one way's heaven, and the other... Well, probably best not to think about that right now, but it's fucking horrible, yeah?
Hey everyone, my name is Sean. Laura, if you wish to continue this podcast, say continue.
Continue. Hi, my name's Laura, and I like my coffee like I like my men, weak and white.
How are you doing today, Laura?
I'm alright, thank you.
All right. Well, I'm really excited to be doing our first kind of special episode together. We finished series 2, excuse me, and we're on to series 3. So I figured let's kind of take a break from Peep Show. Of course, I felt like we ended up watching a 90-minute Peep Show movie.
Yeah, very much so.
But wasn't bad. We, of course, today are going to be talking about the 2007 movie The Magicians, starring David Mitchell and Robert Webb. Of course, written by Armstrong and Bain.
Yeah, it's actually Magicians, not The Magicians.
Oh, there you are correct. Holy shit.
Yep.
I have the title of this podcast episode wrong on Zencaster.
Yeah, it's but I think a lot of people made the same statement. I was Googling around for it. Even some reviewers had referred to it as The Magician, so I think you're fine.
I think The Magicians is a series on Netflix now about...
Yeah, I think that's the where the confusion has come in.
Like 20-something magicians. So, well, I wanted to just kind of go ahead and jump into discussing this because I want to just try to keep this show under 2 hours, hopefully.
Yeah, cool.
So real quick, I've never seen this movie. So a lot of my notes as I was taking them are kind of a combination of like genuine reactions and, unfortunately some of the scenes I kind of had to watch this movie like 3 or 4 times. So after, like time number 4, that reaction is not really there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it quite a few times, although I didn't see it when it first came out. I saw it when it was about 4 years old and it was on the telly. And it was weirdly, when I was pregnant with my eldest daughter, I was quite unwell. I was in hospital quite a long time, and it was a film that I watched about 3 times while I was in hospital to cheer me up. So I have seen it quite a few times, but I did rewatch it for this.
You're not the only one that didn't see it when it first came out either, because it really did not, from everything that I found, it really did not do too super hot in the theaters. I believe it made something like £885,000 while it was in the theater, so not a huge hit. I imagine they were able to recoup their production cost on it, but
yeah, the critics weren't very kind about it. I had a little Google around to see what I could find, and Caroline Westbrook, who I believe is from The Guardian, said it had an uneven tone, which was a bit harsh. And the general consensus seemed to be that it was a big screen outing for Peep Show, really, and that it was enjoyable enough, but you won't remember much of it in the morning. That was one of the quotes from a review that I found that I thought, yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I could definitely see where those criticisms came in, but let's go ahead and talk about the movie, and then we'll talk about our kind of thoughts and feelings on the movie once we're done.
Mm-hmm. Yep, cool.
I really enjoyed the opening credits, just seeing all the baby pictures of Mitchell and Webb.
Yeah, they were good, weren't they? And I watched it again this evening before doing this with my husband, and we were both really laughing at the pictures of them, as particularly as teenagers, and clearly when they first knew each other in the footlights at Cambridge, and they both look so young, and Robert Webb's so gangly looking, and David Mitchell looks like it's about 1983, even though it must have been the mid-90s by this point.
Yeah. I did not realize that they had met each other when they were so young.
Yes, they met at Footlights at Cambridge when they were, I believe they were sort of 18, 19, 20-ish. I think Robert Webb was a little bit older than David Mitchell. But they were certainly like of university age.
Yeah, what Lee had told me was that they had met doing an audition for like Romeo and Juliet or something like that.
I think that's right. I have read David Mitchell's autobiography, and I can't remember exactly, but I think they met at what the play was, but it was at a Footlights audition, and Olivia Colman was there as well, I believe. I seem to remember that she was doing teacher training. I think she was doing primary teacher training, but she got the bug for acting after she joined Footlights and then obviously became an actress.
Oh, that's incredible. But yeah, I did not realize that they were so young when they met.
Yeah.
The optician side of me instantly noticed David Mitchell's like double bar giant ass fucking aviator glasses, and that was such a...
Yeah, they're hideous, aren't they? Really bad.
Oh my god. And that was such an 80s look too, with those big just double bar glasses. I think my dad wore those kind of same glasses too.
My headmaster in infant school had those very glasses, I'm pretty sure.
One other thing that really made me friggin' laugh in this scene was there's one point in the opening credits where they're accepting a trophy and they're both wearing these wigs.
Oh yeah.
And the wigs are just so funny and so fake. I really had a good laugh at that.
Yeah, it's like David Mitchell's got like a mullet thing going on, hasn't he, in the wig? It's very good.
Yeah. After the credits, we kind of get into the end of their show, because as the credits are going on, you actually see them doing their routine, and they're just kind of tearing it up. And the trick that they actually do is so fucking funny. Where, what is it, like he ties them up and he puts them in a box, and then he, like sticks a sword through the box, but then Robert Webb just appears on the other side of the room, like tied up, and he's just got this look on his face where he's like, here I am. David Mitchell, or Harry. I'm going to refer no more Mitchell and Webb. It's Harry and Carl.
Well, that's better than, because in my notes I started off writing Jez and Mark. So, yeah, I have to keep reminding myself that we're calling them Harry and Carl.
Yeah, David Mitchell plays Harry Kane, and Robert...
Like the footballer, are you aware of that?
I was not.
So there's a famous footballer in this country called Harry Kane, which is just bizarre that they called the character Harry Kane. I can only assume, I don't know loads about football, but I can only assume that Harry Kane wasn't famous at this point. I'm just Googling, no, he's quite young, so he probably wasn't.
Oh, maybe he took his name from this show.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And then Robert Webb plays a magician named Carl Allen, a.k.a. the Mindmonger.
Yeah.
But Harry looks at Carl and he's just like, oh my gosh, we were brilliant. Or he goes, you were brilliant. I was amazing. We were shitting gold. Harry is basically... I guess probably this is worth mentioning too. In the opening credits, it does show that Harry eventually married their assistant, Carol.
Karen. No, it's not Karen, it's Carol. She was Karen in Peep Show. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah.
That's funny because in my notes I wrote, oh snap, it's Karen.
It's Karen, yeah.
Yeah, so Harry has gotten married to Carol, and in all of their wedding pictures, you can kind of see Carl giving like side eye to the two. Yeah,
there's chemistry between Carl and Carol, isn't there? Here, in all the photographs, here, it's quite obvious to us that there's an attraction.
Harry goes to talk to the person who's been booking them for their magic show, and he's like, hey, we're gonna extend your act in 4 weeks. I also have this cruise ship gig that we can send you on, and Harry is just like, oh fuck yeah, that cruise ship sounds amazing. Let me go talk to Carl. As we come back, Carol is in the box that I guess you would use to like saw a woman in half, because like literally just her head is sticking out.
Yeah, that's what I took it to be. Yeah.
She's like kind of moaning.
Yeah.
And Harry's like, what the hell is going on here? And then he opens the box and there's like David Mitchell like going down on her, or excuse me.
No, Robert Webb's going down on her, yeah.
Excuse me, yes. Fuck. There's Carl going down on her in the box, and Harry is just like, oh my fucking god.
As you would be.
And he is pissed. Carl just basically is like, look, we've just got the show to put on, let's do the show, and then we'll figure this out later.
Mm-hmm.
Probably infamous last words, I think.
Yep.
As the show is going on, They bring out a guillotine to do a guillotine trick with...
Hang on, how are you pronouncing that?
Oh, fuck. Am I pronouncing it wrong?
I don't know. You're not pronouncing it how I would pronounce it. Say it again.
Guillotine?
I would say guillotine.
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 Okay.
Yeah. That might just be, I don't know. I've never heard it pronounced like that before. I'm not just doing this now to be funny. I'm not just picking random words and telling you you're saying them wrongly.
I don't know that it's all Americans, but it's definitely me.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So the first time I watched this, I was literally had no clue what was about to happen. And
no, me neither. I screamed the first time I saw this, and Phil had seen it, my husband, and we were watching it in a hotel room. It was on late at night, and he was like, we sort of switched over just as it was starting, and he was like, this is quite good, like, let's watch this sort of thing. And so we saw it right from the beginning, and then obviously that happened. I screamed, and he was like, oh yeah, ha ha. So yeah, when you've not seen it, it's quite shocking.
Yeah, so not to beat around the bush or anything, he basically decapitates his wife. And it's really funny because the angle that you see it from, you don't really see what happened, but you hear like a ka-thunk of like a head falling into a basket. And then the audience just is like...
Again, as you would be if you'd seen that, if you were in the audience.
Oh my God.
I wonder if that's ever happened. It must have. I don't know. Yeah, it probably has. Ugh, nasty.
Before we really start going through the rest of this movie, I want to know, because I feel like he did it on purpose. Do you feel like he did it on purpose and was able...
Oh, really? No, I don't feel like he did it on purpose.
Okay, because I feel like that he did it on purpose, because he says at one point that they had 7 safety mechanisms, and none of the safety mechanisms worked. And I just have a hard time believing that 7 safety mechanisms would fail.
I don't know. I just guess that, I don't know, he seems like an honest kind of clueless guy. Maybe that's just me taking the interpretation of like Mark in Peep Show and thinking that he's like that, but he just seems like a bit of a loser that this sort of thing might happen to. Like, if the 7 safety mechanisms are going to fail on anyone, I feel like they would fail on Harry. So no, I don't think he did it on purpose, but maybe I'm being naive.
Because I'll be honest with you, depending on if you think he killed her on purpose or if it was an accident, it really affects how you watch the movie, because...
That's true. It colours the film, I guess. If you think he's a murderer, then this is actually the story of how a psychopath tricks another woman into falling in love with him again.
Exactly. That is kind of the way that I watched it my second time through, was like, here's a psychopath who is pretending not to be a psychopath, and
you're right, that's a very different way of viewing it. I was viewing it as a kind of hapless, lovelorn guy who hasn't had many breaks, accidentally kills his wife and has to live with the guilt of that and loses his career on top of it. So yeah, we watched 2 quite different films then.
Yeah, so here's what I think we should do. I think we should put a poll up on Twitter.
A poll, I see what people thought, see if people agree with us. Yeah, okay.
With killed on purpose, hidden psychopath, killed on accident, bumbling idiot.
Cool. I will do that on the day this comes out. We'll see what people think.
Okay. I was like pretty shocked at how quickly this movie got like a little dark there. I was like, oh, okay.
This is not the rom-com I thought it was going to be.
No, it's not. I figured there was going to be, where they were gonna get a divorce, and then Harry and Carl, Carl was gonna take Carol on as his assistant, and then they were gonna come back together, and everyone was gonna kind of work things out together. I was not really expecting her to get murdered like 5 minutes into the movie.
No, Carol's gone. That's over. She's dead. So no more Carol.
Much like in Peep Show, she just pretty much disappeared after she...
Yeah, I mean, she's a big star over here now, so she's obviously like gone on to greater things, but I agree that these sort of formative roles for her, not great. Wasn't in anything for very long, it seems.
So now we go about, like 4 years into the future?
Yeah, I think it's this 4 years basis, isn't it?
We have Harry. He's working at a place that you conveniently wrote down the name of, called Wilkinson's.
Wilkinson's Depressing Shithole, I wrote underneath. Yeah, it's a shop. I mean, I do shop there for my cat litter and my disinfectant. But it's that sort of shop. It's like, it's not a supermarket because it doesn't sell food, but it sells homewares. It's pretty bleak as a place. It's like mid-range. You wouldn't want to work there. Happy to buy my cat litter there. Sorry, anyone listening who does work there, but it's not your number one career choice, I would say, and I don't think Harry wants to be working there.
No, Harry decides to do some magic tricks because he's selling this knife, and he's talking about all the things that it can cut through, and then he just starts sawing through his arm, much to the absolute horror of the people that he's trying to sell this knife to. So I thought that was pretty
Actually, the first time I saw it, to my absolute horror as well, because I thought he'd cut his own arm. I thought after the cutting his wife's head off, I thought, oh, fucking hell, what am I watching here? David Mitchell's going to cut his own arm off in front of us. But no, it's a magic trick.
And despite the fact that the two customers that he's working with look completely horrified, fellow coworker Linda looks just like completely enthralled by everything, and he's talking about how magic brings happiness, and this knife guarantees happiness, and unfortunately he is ultimately fired. I imagine it is just because the people he was selling to probably weren't too enthused about the trick.
Don't do that in front of children. He probably did do it in front of a kid. He's got sacked.
Next scene, we see what Carl has been up to. Carl has a new, manager, supervisor named Otto.
Yeah.
And when they first showed him with that fucking mustache and goatee, I was just like, oh, okay then.
He, so I don't know if I don't think you do get Darren Brown over there. I think we talked about this a bit last week, but the beard is clearly a nod to Darren Brown, who I think he's kind of like basing himself on. He's like a poor man's Darren Brown here.
Okay, I just pulled up a picture of Darren Brown, and yes, I can definitely see the similarities there.
Yeah.
So Otto, his manager, is just kind of talking to him about, oh, you've got to put this, magic shit behind you. You're the mind monger. You're a psychic.
The mind monger. I love that name. Sorry, just the mind monger is such a great name for a psychic guy.
And I see one of us spelled monger correctly and one of us spelled monger incorrectly. So
did I spell it wrongly?
No, I actually think that you spelled it right.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely did. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes. How did you spell it?
Mongor.
Oh yeah, no. I'm the English teacher. I definitely spelled it right.
So one of the little gags in this episode that I really liked in this scene that I liked was he's got a dove in a cage.
It lets out the window, yeah.
But it's got clipped wings and it just falls to his death. And Carl is like, that was a stage dove. Its wings don't work. In the next scene, we have Harry and he's at this loan office, and this was really like one of the first parts where I actually was like really laughing pretty hard, because he's trying to apply for a loan, and he tells the lady that that's interviewing him, That's
Miranda Hart, by the way. She's a big deal here.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of.
Yeah, she's got her own comedy series called Miranda, and I'm not a massive fan of Miranda Hart, I must say. I find her a tiny bit annoying, but she's a big deal. People love her. So she went on to greater things after this as well.
Oh my God, I'm just like looking at all the stuff that she's been in. Wow.
Yeah, she's got like a primetime BBC One show now.
Yeah, it also says that she was in the Melissa McCarthy movie Spy, which I didn't see, but...
I've not seen that, no.
Yeah.
She's like really tall. That's her kind of thing, is that she's really tall, and she goes on talk shows and talks about how she's really tall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if that's how you want your comedy, and clearly a lot of people here do, she's very popular.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Mm.
But Harry has this poor little scene where he was like, she goes, oh, do you mind if I ask how she died? And Harry's just like, she was, yeah, the usual, decapitated.
And then she says that it was like in a car accident.
Yeah, and he's like, no, not a car accident. It was a magic accident. I actually cut her head off with a guillotine. It was a freak accident. There was 7 different safety mechanisms, And then she pretty much just denies him the loan, like, right then and there.
Yeah, she says she's writing loads of notes, isn't she? And he says, just write that I'm a standard applicant. And she's like, I am writing that. And she keeps writing, she's like, I'm writing it twice.
Yes, I really enjoyed that. Just write that I'm a standard applicant line.
It was very Mark line. I thought it was very, this whole bit was very Mark.
Oh, I agree with you 100% that I really felt like this was the most Mark scene in the entire movie.
Yeah, very Mark.
Next, we have Otto and Carl at the TV station, and they're
They make a Star Wars joke, apparently. You wrote, I've written, did not get the Star Wars joke. That went over my head. I've never seen Star Wars, so...
Well, what happens here is that they basically are crashing this executive meeting. As they walk by the front desk to get in, the lady that's the receptionist, she goes, "Sir, I need to see your passes." And Carl does like the little hand wave. Like basically in the Star Wars movies, the Jedi can mind control people to kind of a limited extent. And it always takes like some sort of hand motion to do it. And so as they walk by, he's like, "You do not need to see our passes." And she's like, "I have to see your passes." Right. And then he waves his hand again and he's like, "You have already seen our passes." So
I just thought it was funny because it's quite amusing, but now I know there's an actual joke in there. Even better.
I mean, and it could be just me reading too much into that.
No, I believe you. If you know Star Wars, I'm sure you're right.
I really this little pitch scene with Otto, and he's like, he can work some serious fucking magic on your ratings. I thought was pretty funny too.
Yeah, the whole bit in the TV studio is very funny.
Yeah. Basically, what happens is Carl, he tells the head executive, think of a word, any word, and she just says "dickhead," and he's like, "Dickhead, okay. Now, if you'll turn to the window, you will see the exact word I implemented into your brain." And she turns and looks out the window, and she sees a bridge. And there's a banner that unfurls on the bridge that says "Dick Wad." But pretty close. And
yeah, I think that's Westminster Bridge, actually. That's like a central bridge in the middle of London.
Were you impressed with how close he was able to get to that, or did you just think it was more, of course she's going to call him a dickhead?
Yeah, I thought, of course, she's going to call him a dickhead, to be honest. Yeah. There was no psychic ability there, was there?
And basically the executives kick Carl and Otto out, and as they're walking out, the T-girl comes running up to them, and this is when we first meet Danny. And I believe that you told me that the actress that plays Danny, Andrea Riseborough?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
You said that she's kind of hot shit right now too, right?
Yeah, so she's not a comedy actress, she's more of a serious actress now. But she's been in loads of things, but last year she was in something called National Treasure, and she was she played the daughter of the main character in that, and she was amazing. And she's a huge deal over here. I'm just looking to see what else she's been in.
She was also the main female lead in the Tom Cruise movie Oblivion.
Okay, well she was in Birdman, which I saw, and yeah, she's just a big deal. Like she's a huge deal over here now.
Oh my god, she's won a ton of awards. It says on IMDb she's won 18 awards. Holy Christ, that's... Yeah,
I think she won. I was going to say I think she won the BAFTA for National Treasure, and she's hot property.
Wow, that's crazy. I honestly, I'm just gonna go out. I'm just gonna go ahead and just plant my flag here. Danny, by far my favorite person in this entire movie.
Yeah, she's very funny in it. It's not surprising that she went on to be a big deal.
Oh my god, she has so many scenes where I was just laughing so hard. The character that she plays, I feel like that she just really just jumped both feet in and just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do this."
Yeah, she's really, really good.
Oh, let's see. So Otto is a little annoyed with Carl for kind of hitting on the T-girl, especially because, the T-girl doesn't really have any power.
Yeah, she says, doesn't he, something like, "Oh, are you going to be on that game show where you become a TV executive for a day or something?" Like, he's got no time for it whatsoever.
Yeah, she says, or Otto says, "Tell me, love, are you going to be on the show where you get to be a TV controller for a day?" Danny says no, and then Otto just says, all right then, well, we should probably just fuck off.
I really enjoyed here as well, by the way, that Carl says something about a factoid, which is so on Radio 2, which is like the radio station for the middle-aged over here. It's like a mixture of music and talk. There's a DJ called Steve Wright who does a show in the afternoon, and one of the sections on his show is factoids, where he shares factoids about, and I've just gone onto the Radio 2 in the afternoon page, and the top factoid is Arctica was once home to 6'7" penguins. So they're the kind of factoids that he comes out with. So I really enjoyed that Carl used the expression factoid there.
Yeah, he says the average person only uses 1% of their mind, but someone like me uses 17%.
Yeah.
And Danny
great factoid.
Yeah, Danny is just, she is like fucking impressed with that. She's
enthralled, isn't she? Do you think that Danny is a moron, or is she just hopelessly naive?
I look at her as a person who really believes probably in like the afterlife, in ghosts, things of that nature. So because she believes so hard in something like that, she is just willing to kind of believe that Carl can do all the things he says that he can do.
I think she's probably just a really nice person. That's kind of my thoughts about her, that she's a nice person, and she wants to think the best in people. She doesn't want to think that he's just a charlatan.
Yeah. And well, we'll get to that later, but yeah, I mean, I think that she is just, I think it's like you said, she's just genuinely a good person, and then wants, it, but really believes that he does the things that he says he can do.
Yeah.
So now we get Harry at Davenport's magic store, and I wanted to talk to you about Davenport's magic store. I know that last week we talked about my honeymoon where I found the magic store.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that on the podcast, or did we talk about that off air?
Ooh, I can't remember, actually. I think it might have been off air.
Okay. So in case it was on the podcast and I just don't remember, I'll just give you basically the Cliff Notes. I'll give the listeners the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
On my honeymoon, we were in a small town in the middle of Arkansas. And in this small town in Arkansas, there was a magic store that was essentially like Davenport's magic store, where it was just, like magic tricks and stuff like that everywhere. And the owner of the store did like a trick routine for me, and my mind was just fucking blown. And really, ever since then, I have fallen in love with magic, and I bought a book on how to do card tricks, and there's some card tricks that I can do. At my job, I actually keep decks of cards with me, and I use it kind of as an icebreaker,
right?
To do just like little cheap magic tricks for people.
Cool.
So, Davenport's really like made me smile, because it really made me remember the little magic store in Eureka Springs that sparked my love of magic.
It's nice that there's somewhere like that in America, because I thought it was a peculiarly British thing, but it's nice that it's not. So yeah.
I actually don't know if the place is still open or not. I'm kind of scared to Google it.
You don't want to find out it's gone.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably closed. Nope, still open.
Oh, good, I'm glad.
Yes.
So this is a really funny scene, isn't it? And the he's trying to like persuade the owner of the magic shop to give him a job of some description.
I felt so bad for him in this scene.
Yeah.
Where he's I could dem a few tricks, be somewhat of an attraction, and Mr. Davenport just kind of shoots him down.
And he says, yeah, you could be an attraction, but not in a good way, Harry.
Yeah, he talks about, I know that you're safe. I know that you're a safe magician, and it was just a freak accident, but, it's, nobody wants to see the guy that murdered his wife.
See, I don't think that's true. I think that there would be an audience for that. I do think they would, it would attract an audience. It's tasteless, but I think they could make a lot of money off the back of it. So maybe Mr. Davenport's not got his best thinking hat on business-wise there.
No, I completely agree with you, because the attraction would be, is he going to do it again?
Exactly.
Every time he brings out the guillotine, it's like, oh shit, is he going to decapitate his wife again? Or his assistant again?
Exactly. assistant. Exactly. Yeah, I think you could make a lot of money off the back of that. So Mr. Davenport, stupid.
Yeah, Mr. Davenport says that there's a person looking for cold readers for a psychic line. Are you familiar with what cold reading is?
Yes. So, yes, cold reading, for anyone that doesn't know, is when you sort of fish for information based on things someone says or things they're wearing or the way they act in order to pretend to be psychic.
Exactly. A lot of quote unquote mediums are basically just people who are extremely good at cold reading.
Yeah.
You start off with just kind of general. Well, there's a scene where they actually kind of show like a cold reading, and we'll talk about that more. I feel like we're saying we'll talk about that later, but
I tell you what, I've got a good anecdote actually, which is that I've got an aunt who is actually I say genuine psychic. She is a psychic. That is what she works as. And I'm not saying anything she doesn't know. She knows that I'm skeptical about it, but she wholeheartedly believes that she can contact the dead, and that is what she does for a living.
interesting.
Yeah, so she's my dad's half sister. She's much younger than my dad, and she actually goes around the country to psychic events doing psychic things.
Have you ever had her give you a reading?
When I was about 16, she did say something to me that did later come true, but I would say that could have happened to anyone. She's never given me an actual reading. I don't know. I'm very much on the side of being very skeptical about this sort of thing. I'm an atheist. I don't really believe in an afterlife and such, but I do also believe that she's not faking. What she believes is that she can do it. Whether or not that is true is up for debate, but I don't think that she's a charlatan in the sense that she's cold reading people. She definitely thinks there's something going on. I don't personally believe that it's possible, would be what I would say, but she has got things spot on, and she's got a big following, and people really believe in her, so who knows?
My opinion on that kind of stuff is, if it brings you comfort,
Yeah.
like, just go for it. Like,
definitely. And she wholeheartedly believes that she had made contact with her father after he died, who was my dad's dad as well, though he didn't know him. It's a complicated family history, but it gives her comfort to believe that. She really believes it. So fair play, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never actually... In Eureka Springs, there was a psychic, and the reason that we went to Eureka Springs is that my mom and her sisters had gone there. They do like a sister's vacation every year.
Right.
And they had gone there, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, and they saw a psychic, and the psychic... I don't remember exactly what the psychic said, but it was something about me.
Right.
I'm trying to think if it ended up coming true later on. I don't remember exactly what had happened, but when we were in Eureka Springs, I actually wanted to go see the psychic.
Right, yeah.
But unfortunately, she was closed on the weekend, or it was something weird like that. She was closed on the weekend, or she was just not in, and while we were there, and so we never got to go see the psychic, but I was a little bummed about that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. Like my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, she really believes in it, and she goes to like psychic nights and stuff, and she's not affiliated with my aunt who's a psychic. They're different sides of the family. But my sister-in-law, who's majorly into it, like she really believes in it, and she came home once and said she'd spoken to their granddad, and my husband was like, yeah, you did. But she, she believes in it, and who's to say, I suppose. It's not something I personally think I believe in, but there's maybe more going on under the surface than we know. But I think it's fair to say that Carl has absolutely no psychic ability in this film.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, this is not exploring that side of psychic life. This is exploring the more charlatan side of psychic life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely the more charlatan side, like you said.
Yeah.
Mr. Davenport, as he's writing down the phone number for the guy who's looking for cold readers, as Harry flips it over, he sees that there's a contest called the Magic Shield Award, and he's like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. 20,000 pound prize. Fuck yeah, let's go for it.
Yep, seems fair enough. He knows he's good at magic. He needs 20 grand. Why not?
What did you think of his apartment?
So I've written, why is this like a 70s bachelor pad? It looks like something out of the Likely Lads. It's really anachronistic. It's all brown, isn't it? And very 70s.
For a guy who's allegedly having money problems, like, I can't even imagine what the rent on that place must have been.
No, it's like
That was a nice looking place.
It was very nice, albeit a bit 70s, but it was big, and it was a bit Habitat, like the shop Habitat that is expensive, but everything was decked out in that. So I agree with you, that was a bit out of place.
Linda is there. Linda has sorry, let me start over again. Linda is there as well. One of Linda's little character traits that I love is her sense of humor. I don't know. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
She's very funny. And do you know Spaced, where the program where Jessica Hines found fame? Are you familiar with it?
I'm not.
So this part that she plays is very like the part she plays in Spaced, Daisy, who's like a kind of sort of sarcastic, like slightly edgy millennial before they were millennials, I suppose. She's in Space. She's a bit more of a slacker than Linda is, but it's quite a similar part. And yeah, I agree that a sense of humor is very endearing in this role.
Yeah, she tells Harry asks if she wants coffee and how she likes her coffee, and she says, "I like my coffee weak and white, like I like my men."
Yeah, and that's a great line. Really laughed at that.
Yeah, and then he comes out and he says, "Oh, I bet you say that to all the people whose flat you've gone to." And then he immediately is like, oh my god, I made such a terrible joke. And he starts trying to explain the joke to her, and she's just like, fucking relax.
She's pretty cool, isn't she, as well? Like, throughout all of, I was going to say Mark's neuroses, throughout all of Harry's neuroses throughout this film, she's just like, nah, chill out, it's fine. So, yeah, this is very similar to the kind of things that go on with
Mark and
Harry in this. Mark and Harry in this film, yeah.
Linda says that she wants to do a dance audition for him.
This is brilliant. This dance is, it really reminded me of, so for some reason at my school, I had to do GCSE dance, and I've got absolutely no talent in any kind of sport or physical field. It was cruel that I had to do this. And my best friend Jenna and my friend Shelley, we were in the same class, and we had to go in groups, and we had to make this dance up. And we were surrounded by all these girls who were just shit hot dancers, and we were like, what the fuck are we going to do? And we ended up choreographing a dance to Last Christmas by Wham. It was about 3 weeks before Christmas, so that was our inspiration. And it was just us doing these like formations of Christmas trees, and it was shocking, and it was awful, and it really reminded me of that.
Is that on videotape anywhere?
I'm glad to say it is not on videotape anywhere. It only exists now in the memories of me, Jenna and Shelley and the other girls in our class, but it was awful.
As she's doing this dance that is both awesome and horrible, David Mitchell's face, we get kind of the Mark like disgusted look on his face.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh, did we mention the song that she's dancing to? She's dancing to Gay Bar by Electric Six, which is not a song.
And I've written in my notes, this was such a tune. I'd forgotten what an absolute tune this was.
I think that I've maybe heard this song once in my entire life.
Have you never heard this before? This was massive over here. Aren't they American?
No, it was a hit. It was a hit over here, but and I don't think we talked about this on air. I don't really listen to a lot of music.
Okay, yeah.
So I'd like when the song started, I was like, oh, we're gonna take you to a gay bar, and so I knew the song. I couldn't have told you who it was by. I assumed the name was Gay Bar, but I wasn't 100% sure about that.
Oh, well, you're missing out because this was massive, and it is a great song, and the video for it is hilarious.
Did Electric Six have any other songs, or are they pretty much a one-hit wonder with Gay Bar?
Danger, Danger, High Voltage. Do you know that?
Mm-mm.
That was their other big hit. They kind of disappeared after that.
My favorite part is when she's just like, oh, what's your favorite bit? And Harry is just like, the bit where you were on the floor.
She's sort of in the bit where she's on the floor, she's like on her side, isn't she, doing this sort of road runner thing? It's really bizarre. There's no way that could be anyone's favourite, but I like that he picked that bit from all of it.
And Linda is like, look, I want to be your assistant in this magic tournament, and Harry is like, well, let's not do it this year. Let's wait 4 years or maybe another 8 years to really like get you trained. And she is
in 4 to 8 years. With 4 to 8 years practice, I think we stand a very good chance. That's what he says.
And man, it is very, very funny. I really enjoyed that part where
Yeah, it's very good.
he's trying to like let her down easily, but you can tell that Linda is like not happy about.
Nah, she's crushed. She's crushed.
This next scene, I am going to go ahead and play the phone conversation between Harry and Carl because I thought it was really, really fucking funny.
Yep.
So here we go.
Hello?
Hello, Carl. This is Harry.
Shit.
Yes. Now, listen. I was thinking we should maybe enter the Shield together. Now, look, I don't want to
Talk about feelings. We both have feelings, that's horribly obvious. But, well, if you do not wish to think about entering, please replace the receiver now. If you wish to hear my thoughts, please stay on the line. Okay, it would be strictly business. In, win, split the money, goodbye. No bar chat, bonhomie, or late-night laugh sessions. If you're interested, please state the word interested.
at this point.
Interested.
Good. Then I was thinking for the prelims we could do the cut.
Down routine, the 10-minuter. If you're on board, please state, see you there, Harry, and we will see each other there.
See you there, Harry.
Likewise. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Likewise.
Oh man, I love that when he's just like, no bar chat, bonhomie, which I had to ask you what that fucking means, or late night laugh sessions. If interested, please state the word interested at this point.
It's really, really well done as well. Like, the look on Robert Webb's face while it's going on is perfect.
I like that Harry wrote everything down on
Little cards still, yeah.
You know, it's like those YouTube videos where like the people play like the sad music and they hold the cards up and they just keep flipping them off one by one. It was exactly like that, except not about horrible stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't, oh, in 2008 I got breast cancer. It was, in 2008 I killed my wife by accident, but now I need money and you're the only one that can help me.
Oh man, that scene just had me laughing so hard. Oh my god. If you are not interested, please replace the phone receiver. If you wish to hear my thoughts, please stay on the line. And Robert Webb's face, like, he has this look on his face where he's about to say, like, what the fuck? But then he realizes that he probably just shouldn't say anything, and he just doesn't say anything. Yeah,
he just keeps his mouth shut, doesn't he? It's just the wisest option. But he does stay on the line. So it's clear that he does want to go and do the show with him.
Next, we get Harry... Oh, Jesus Christ. Harry on a ferry.
Try saying that when you've had a drink.
Oh, Christ. Harry packs up all of his magic tricks into the biggest fucking van I've ever seen. I don't know how it's even a thing. So... But he ends up being on a ferry, and while on the ferry, Harry bumps into friend of the show, Steve Edge, who is portraying Tony White in this movie.
Yeah, and I had a lot of back and forth on Twitter this week with Steve Edge, which I'll talk about later, but he plays Tony to absolute perfection in this film, I think. I think you said that Danny was your favourite character. I think Tony's my favourite character. He is hilarious in every scene that he's in.
Right, and one thing that was awesome about Steve Edge in this show is I did not see him as Daryl. Like, to me, he was not Daryl. He was...
No, he's quite a different character to Daryl,
yes,
isn't it?
he was 100% Tony, and at no point was I like, oh, why is Daryl doing magic tricks? He just...
Yeah.
He's such a completely different character from Daryl, so it was kind of refreshing that he was one of the few characters in this where I wasn't like, oh, why is so-and-so doing such and such thing?
Yeah, and I know him from Phoenix Nights, which I know that you've not seen, but he, I'm not sure if that's where he made his name. I'm going to say it was certainly where I first came to know him. And again, he plays Alan in Phoenix Nights, and it's quite a different character to Alan as well, so props to Steve Edge for managing to, like you say, bring a bit of uniqueness to Tony in a film that otherwise sometimes doesn't have that uniqueness. A lot of the characters are like, okay, I've seen that before, but Tony definitely I haven't.
And I don't know what the fuck he was talking to this cashier about, but he's talking about his god damn it. Fuck. He's talking about his jizz to this poor, like, cashier, and he's saying, like, third day, loads of jizz. Second day, less jizz. Or first day, loads. Second, not as much. Third day, none at all. Or just, I don't even fucking know what he's talking about. I couldn't.
No, he's generally just talking about the amount of jizz at different points where we assume had sex in quick succession. But I've just written in my notes, jizz chat grim. That sums it up, I think.
Oh yeah, and Harry sees Tony sees Harry, and they kind of start, you can tell that they have been friends or at least professional acquaintances in the past, and this is also the first time.
Yeah, they've known each other for a few years, I think.
This is also the first time that we hear about Harry's fear of flying. He's not scared, he's just never done it.
Yeah, so Tony says, doesn't he, why are you, like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but the implication is, like, Jesus, like, why are you on the ferry with the pobs? And which makes us think, is Tony down on his luck, number one? But also, like you say, introduces us to the idea that Harry's scared of flying, and he says, I don't like to fly, which may or may not be true, as I've never actually flown. Which I kind of identify with, actually, because I'm not sure if it's different for you as an American, because obviously you've got to fly to get across the country and stuff. I don't mind flying, but it's not my number one thing to do, and I think that's probably the case for a lot of Brits. I wouldn't choose to do it.
Probably be just because I've done it so much. Not that I'm like, Mr. World Traveler or anything. Flying is not really a big deal. I mean, the hardest part about flying is getting on the fucking plane, because every airport in America is laid out differently.
Right, yeah.
You basically are getting like full rectal searches every time you get on a plane, so that's the hard part.
Right, okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, it's especially being where we are, I think, and being in London and I've grown up at a time where we've had the Eurostar, so I've always gone to, well, not always, but generally, if I've gone to France, I've always gone on the train. And I've been to loads of places across Europe on the train and by ferry and by road. And therefore, maybe it's just the way I grew up travelling around Europe as a kid and going on holiday. But planes, I haven't done it that much, probably in comparison to you. And I'm just not a massive fan. I'll do it, but I wouldn't choose to.
Mm-hmm. Is the hovercraft still around?
I do think they are a thing, but I've never been on one.
Oh, when we went to France on our British vacation that I've talked to you about before, I was fucking elated because we got to go on the hovercraft, and I was so excited to go on the hovercraft.
Yeah, and I do know that it's the thing, but I haven't ever been on it.
We took one of the catamarans back, and I just remember I just got so seasick that it was like a shitty experience. The other thing that I like that Tony does in this scene is he basically it goes up to random women and he's just like, suck on my wand, it's magic. And all I could think about was Mark in Man Show when he's like, yeah, I should have just said, suck this, and that's what a man does. So I like that. And one of the women says to Tony, I will if you eat me out. And he just, like, this look on his face, he's just like, ew, that's disgusting.
Yeah, no need for that. Oh, that's disgusting. Yeah, it's brilliant. I did enjoy as well that, I mean, I have known men a bit like this, like, probably not for a while, and probably when I was younger, naming no names, but I'm thinking of guys I was at university with who, this was very much their method with women, was if you ask enough women to have sex with you, someone's going to have sex with you. And I thought that was well observed. Those men do exist.
Mm-hmm. That's like pickup artist 101 is just keep your numbers high and your standards low.
Yeah, it's a numbers game.
Mm-hmm. Next we get to kind of this, I don't know, castle almost type deal where the actual magic contest is being held.
It's like a country house hotel kind of situation.
I'm assuming this is in Jersey because that's where the actual tournament is going on. However, they did not actually film in Jersey.
No, this was filmed in Nottingham, I believe.
Also, what country is Jersey in?
So Jersey it's part of Britain, but it's not mainland. It's much closer to France than it is to Britain. So it belongs to us, but it's a little island near France.
There's in this scene, there's all these people just doing various magic tricks, and I was just like giddy because, like I said, I just love magic. I guess probably this would be a good time to talk about this. Mitchell and Webb actually were trained as legitimate magicians, and some of these tricks they actually were able to do on their own, which I really impressed me.
That's pretty cool.
The scene, jumping back a few scenes, where Carl is talking to Danny, and he just does like the sleight of hand and just pops the business card out from nowhere.
Yeah.
If Robert Webb actually did that, like, good on him, because that was really, really good sleight of hand.
Yeah, he pulls it out from behind her ear, doesn't he? It's very cool.
There's these two, like, kind of weird guys that are at the Shield, and we kind of see them a few times, and they're almost kind of the audience surrogates, I guess.
Yeah, they're sort of like they take our place, don't they? In terms of they sort of verbalise what we should be feeling. So we first see them in the magic shop, and they're here as well.
Mm-hmm. And they see Harry, and they're like, "Oh my God, did you hear how her body ran around like a chicken after it happened?" And they're both kind of excited that Harry's getting back in the magic game.
Yeah.
I was shocked because I was not aware that Peter Capaldi was in this movie either.
He is indeed.
I was like, holy shit, Peter Capaldi. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's in it as a pre-Doctor Who Peter Capaldi,
mm-hmm.
and he's kind of in charge of the magic shield, isn't he?
Yep, yeah, he's like the head judge, and this magician, so they're doing kind of the first round, like the opening rounds of cuts to see who goes on to the second round, and there's a magician that's in there that's doing a routine with a cigarette. Wikipedia, actually, whoever did the Wikipedia page for magicians, like, I'm just going to give you some applause right now, because it was very, very thorough, so I'm happy to be able to sound smart and tell you who some of these people are, but I'll be honest, really, it was just Wikipedia. The magician who's doing the routine at that point, his name is Pat Page, and he was one of Britain's leading magicians, and he died roughly 3 years after this movie. But I like the little routine he does with the cigarette. He just pulls it, makes the cigarette appear out of nowhere, makes the fire appear out of nowhere, lights the cigarette reappears in his ear, and then he just puts it out on his tongue. And he just kind of bows out, and Peter Capaldi's like, There's no
method to that. He just takes the pain.
Which, if true, like, damn, that's some pain. Yeah. I can't imagine, like, purposely burning my tongue like that. Holy shit.
But yeah, we see that the tension outside is palpable, isn't it? And we can see that everyone's very excited to see that Carl and Harry have got back together for this competition. And they enter the competition room, and Mike, Peter Capaldi's character, just instantly says that they're through to the second round, they don't need to do a trick.
Yeah, he's talking about how we can kind of sort the wheat from the chaff, and you guys are just going on to the second round. No need to even do a trick. But Carl really wants to do a trick anyways, and so he starts doing this one, and then Harry's like, no, I thought we could do the bullet catch.
And obviously with your reading of the film where Harry is a dangerous psychopath, obviously Carl is quite right to not want a gun anywhere near.
Oh, yeah. As the reading of the film where Harry is a dangerous psychopath, I am completely on Carl's side in not wanting to do the bullet catch. And then the funny part in this entire scene, Mike comes up to Harry and he's like, look, we're going to be working with our PR department. We're going to try to minimize the damage from the wife decapitation, and we think we could make this a good thing. And the entire time this scene is going on, Harry is waving around like a big fucking gun.
Yeah.
It's like basically Dirty Harry's revolver from the Dirty Harry movies, where it's just a big gun. And I'm sure some gun person out there is going to be like, well, actually, that's a Mark 17 revolver. I don't know shit about guns, so I don't know what kind of gun it is. It's a big ass gun.
No, it's just a scary gun. It's a war gun, to quote Peep Show.
I also like when the two idiots are talking about the first time Harry and Carl meet each other, and they're like, it's like Israel and Palestine entering into a magic show.
Yeah, that's really funny. And there's a great bit as well outside the magic room as well, where Tony and another character, who is Dwight, who we then find out is his son, appear. So they meet for the first time in, is it 8 months, he says? They've not seen each other in 8 months. And Tony says we should hang out more, you never call. And the son says, you never call. And then they have a little bit back and forth, and the son gets a little bit testy, and he's like, back off, mate, I'm still your dad. And the chemistry between them is really, really good. The son is played by Rasmus Hardiker, who is in Lead Balloon, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but that was a comedy over here on BBC Four. It was written by and starred Jack D, and Rasmus Hardiker is in that as the boyfriend of his daughter, and he's brilliant in that, and he's very good in this film as well.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I actually had to look on IMDb because I literally could not understand what Steve Edge said his name was.
Right.
So I had to look up on IMDb to see what his actual name was. So I did see his name was Rasmus Hardiker, but I had no idea that he was in, anything else.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else he's been in other than that, but I know him from Le Balloon, and he is brilliant in that. He is, like I say, he plays the lead character's daughter's boyfriend, and he's like a stoner, slacker, waste of space, and he's just brilliant in it.
I could see he's got that look to play that kind of character.
Yeah, Ben, that's his name. And he plays Ben really well, and him and Jack D really play off each other well, and he plays off Steve Edge brilliantly here as well.
They do. They play off each other really well. The scene basically ends with Harry and Carl each announcing that they're going to go solo.
Yep.
And they're going to enter the, contest
alone,
individually.
Yeah.
So now we start to see kind of them both designing their first round tricks. Otto and Carl are at the beach, and Carl wants to do a trick called Mr. Potato Head. Otto wants him to do it either in a tree, in a pond, or buried up into his neck in sand.
And he mentions David Blaine, doesn't he, who I'd completely forgotten about. I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing that people enjoyed for a while.
Yeah. Robert, and I think we mentioned this earlier, Robert Webb was buried in sand, and was really buried in sand, and he hated it, and could only be buried in the sand for 30 minutes at a time before he started to kind of get like panic attacks.
Panic, yeah.
Which I don't blame him, because it sounds fucking horrific.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
He asks Otto what he's going to do for food, and Otto says, you don't need food, you are living off your brain. Now we see Harry, and he is back in his trick van, but Linda has just kind of shown up out of nowhere. I really enjoy this part where he's like, you're so brave for flying, and she's like, oh, it's no big deal, and he's like, but you're so brave.
Thousands of feet up in the thin air.
Yeah. Linda just kind of pretty much goes straight for the gist of things, and she's like, oh, you must have been pretty desperate to call me, and he's like, no, not at all, and she's like, it's okay, I know that. She's like, I won't do the dance. Okay, well, I'll do it a bit.
And then she says, I might do the dance a bit when you're not looking.
And then she's like, I'm just kidding, I'm not going to do the dance, but I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, it's really funny.
The more I talk about Linda and Danny, to me, are pretty much the highlights of this movie for me.
Yeah, she's Jessica Hines is strong in this film, and strong in this part, I think.
They go into the back of the van, and she starts to kind of ask about his former assistant, and I don't know if this jumped out at you, but how the fuck has Linda not heard this story of Harry, quote, accidentally killing his wife with a guillotine?
Yeah, like, considering they work together as well, if someone turned up at my workplace who'd accidentally killed their wife and been cleared of it in a coroner's court, and it, that would have come up, someone would have mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that Wilkinson's isn't a hotbed of gossip. I'm sure it would have come out.
Oh, right. And even if she had zero interest, well, obviously she knows that he's a magician. right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I feel like that if this story actually happened, that it would have been everywhere.
Yeah.
My only thought is that maybe since it happened 4 years ago, she had heard about it, but maybe couldn't remember which magician it was, etc., etc.
She'd forgotten. Yeah, yeah.
She finds he's trying to, like, oh, we're going to do this trick with magic squeeze balls or something like that, and she sees the guillotine and she's like, oh, let's do the guillotine trick, and he's like, no, I don't want to do it here. And she is like, Harry, I didn't fly out all this way to not win. Like, we're gonna win. And where are we gonna... I can't remember exactly how she gets there, but she's like, where are we gonna fuck them, Harry? And Harry's just like, in the auditorium. And she's like, no, Harry, in the arse. Right in the arse. Say it. And he's just like, we are going to fuck them in the arse. And she's like, yeah. that part really cracked me up.
So we move into a dinner party now with Carl and Otto, and I think it's like a dinner for the contestants, and Danny just shows up out of nowhere, and Carl says they've been texting each other.
Yeah, Otto is like, oh my god, she's a stalker, she's, a stalker, you shouldn't talk to her, like, that's crazy that she came all this way out here. She's gross, don't talk to her. She probably keeps poo in her handbag.
It's a very Jez line. It made me think of, like, when he calls, is it in the one with the crystal skulls, where he draws mean cartoons about you and wraps in sausage meat and calls you sausage muncher. It was a very kind of Jez line there, I thought, that Otto used.
Carl goes to pretty much talk to Danny, and this scene, holy Christ, was really, really funny.
Yeah, so she completely believes in him as a psychic, doesn't she, at this point? And she says, no, it's Carl who says, would you like a drink? And she says, oh my god, that's so freaky, you knew exactly what I was thinking.
I like that no matter what he says, it's always the right answer. Like, he asks her what kind of drink she wants, and she's like, oh, don't ask me. You tell me what kind of drink I'm thinking about. Yeah, and he says, oh, white wine. And she's like, yeah, that's exactly what I drink. White wine, or sometimes red wine, or sometimes a lager. So, like you say, whatever he said, he would have been right there. That part was funny. So, in this next scene, we get Mark and Linda in the... Jesus Christ, I just did it. Harry and Linda in the hotel room, and they are practicing a levitating trick. Earlier on, he had showed her the levitating harness in the back of the trick van, and he said that Carl really didn't have the core strength to do the levitation trick, or the upper body strength or something like that to do the levitation trick, so they never did it. So he's really excited. She tells him that the harness is too tight and to kind of loosen it a little bit. And then as soon as he's done, like, kind of loosening it, she's like, oh, thank God the sexual harassment is over. And he's like, oh. Yeah,
he gets really flustered. She's a bit she's making kind of slightly risque jokes, isn't she? And he gets really flustered by it. And it's a bit like, it reminded me of Mark in Peep Show when Dobby's being a bit saucy and he can't handle it.
As he's trying to, like, loosen her harness too, she's also, oh, tell me about your assistant. Oh, you married her? Oh, you're married? Oh, you're, she just kind of keeps pumping him for information about his former assistant. Also, one other cool little tidbit that I learned on Wikipedia, Magibot, who's the magician with kind of the silver face paint on, that he's played by a magician named Scott Penrose, who was in charge of teaching Mitchell and Webb how to do actual magic tricks. And he was actually, like, excommunicated from, like, essentially the Magicians Guild for ruining, for basically revealing the secrets of how magic is done. He was basically, like, excommunicated from the Magicians Guild.
Oh, I didn't know that. He was thrown out of the magic circle.
Yeah. The magic circle, definitely thrown out of the magic circle.
Oh, good.
But going back to the way that Linda constantly makes, kind of dirty jokes and enjoys watching Harry get flustered, that's probably my favorite character trait of hers, and she does it
all the time.
quite a bit.
Yeah. So we go into the convention hall now with people, they're doing like the tricks, and Harry and Linda are together, and Linda's really excited, isn't she? She's really loving all the different tricks. And
oh my god, I loved all these tricks too. This scene was honestly probably one of my favorite scenes in this entire episode, just from a pure like magic geek perspective. I love this scene so much. I was just like, I would go to this convention in a heartbeat.
And she's really like, got a childlike wonder about it, hasn't she? She's very wide-eyed about everything. and Dwight's trying to do a trick called the Flowers of Love, and Tony's giving him a really hard time about it. And once again, the chemistry between those two is really, really good. It's really funny. And Tony's really impressed by the trick and wants to know how it's done. But Dwight just says, look, he made up the mechanism and he's not going to tell him. And Linda's really impressed with the trick. And like she's really wide-eyed and can't believe it's not magic. And
I'll be honest, I was fucking impressed with this trick too.
I wonder if it is a known trick or if someone came up with it for the film. I don't know.
I'm sure this is. I mean, vanishing flowers is probably magic 101.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask my downstairs neighbor because he is a magician, and I sometimes talk to him about magic and stuff like that, so I'll ask him if this is a known trick.
That sounds cool. He'll know. Yeah. And Tony says that it's something like he learned everything he knows he learned from me, and Dwight says the only thing I learned from you is how to be a selfish shit.
That was really funny.
And it's really good, and like the bitterness is real there.
Yes. Tony then kind of starts hitting on Linda, and he's like, oh, all the rumors are true.
Oh yeah.
Except the one about him sucking off a duck, which I initially thought he said dog, and so every time that I've listened to this, I thought he said dog, which made the next joke where he tossed up a bunch of feathers right in Linda's face make zero sense to me. Like, I had no idea what was going on there, but then once you correctly...
And he definitely says duck, but I'm prepared to accept that Steve just got a very strong accent in this.
So we are back at the beach now, and so if it sounds like we're doing this again, I don't know why it sounds like we're doing this again, so we'll try to be enthusiastic about the next 15-20 minutes of this. But if the next 20 minutes we sound a little unenthused, it's because we had a little
recording issues.
We had a little recording issue. So we're at the beach where Carl is going to be buried up to his neck in sand, and Carl's really concerned about how deep he's going to be buried in the sand. There's this backhoe.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah, there's this backhoe just digging out a really deep pile of sand, and while he's kind of talking about this, Otto is on the phone with a TV executive, and they're just kind of talking about how they're going to be live streaming the trick and how the TV executive wants Carl's face to be the face of the network. And
Carl's really excited about this. And he says, "You've made them want my face, you're the bloody king." And Otto takes this the wrong way, doesn't he? He thinks that he takes any attention from Carl the wrong way because he gets too enthusiastic about it, but he gets really enthusiastic about this piece of attention.
Right, and but one of the downsides to this is that the meeting with the executives is tonight. Carl also has a date with Danny tonight.
Yeah, he's arranged that already. And Otto just tells him that he has to cancel it.
And Carl's like, of course I will, and I don't even have to think twice about it. And Otto is like, yeah, well, you shouldn't have to think twice about it. And he's just like, yeah,
well, I'm not.
No, I'm not. And
oh yeah, and then that's when Otto says that he says, "You and me, we're the team, having a laugh, having a kiss," and Carl just looks at him like, the fuck? He obviously does not feel this way about Otto in any way.
Yeah, and Carl just looks at Otto and he's like, "Oh, well, that was an accident." And Otto's like, "Well, we've had a lot of accidents then."
And does he say something about "Oh, what about we're in a taxi and our legs touch" or something? And it's clear that he's just taking any tiny bit of attention from Carl to mean that he loves him.
Yeah, it's really this little. The first time that I was watching this, I was like, "Oh, well, was not expecting this to be the direction that this storyline was going."
No, well, okay. Yeah. So it's quite clear that Otto is in love with Carl now.
In the next scene, we have Harry in the bathroom doing a whittle.
Yeah, he's having a whittle. And Otto is way too close to him and does a Jeff from On the Pool in Peep Show here, where he just leaves no buffer in the bathroom whatsoever. Oh, God, I just said bathroom like I was an American. In the toilet, he leaves no buffer whatsoever.
And you can say washroom, bathroom, loo, toilet, all acceptable.
Say, yeah. He leaves no buffer in the loos whatsoever, and he just comes into the urinal right next to him and starts trying to have a conversation with Harry.
And I hate people that do this because for men, using the bathroom is kind of a solitary thing. You know,
yeah, for girls, you know, it's more of a group activity, and the girls go in groups. But I know that boys don't do that.
Sorry, we're like really rushing through this scene, but that's okay. That's okay. I want to get to stuff we haven't talked about yet, but Otto is kind of funny in the scene because he's just like, hey Harry, hey Harry, hey Harry, hey Harry.
He's really trying to have a conversation with him, and Harry says, I heard you. I was ignoring you on purpose, you know, to be rude.
Otto tells Harry that he is just bitter, and then he also kind of drops this bombshell that him and Carl told Linda about what happened in the incident, and that she was really upset about him not telling her about said incident.
Yeah, which he would be.
Yes. Harry goes to Linda's hotel room to try to find her to kind of, you know, explain his side of the case, but there is a maid, I guess.
Yeah, chambermaid. She answers the door, and she says that the room's been vacant since this morning.
Right, now, this really pisses Harry off.
He's really upset.
No pun intended. But he walks out to the beach where Carl's buried up to his neck in sand, and he just, like, undoes his fly, and he's about to just piss all over Carl. Carl is, like, you know, kind of trying to plead his case why he should not be pissed on, and then Harry's just like, oh, I can't even go. You escaped punishment again. Like, how do you always do that?
And he really wants an apology from Carl, doesn't he? And he says this, and Carl sort of acts dumb, like, what do I need to apologise for? And he says, well, for having it with my wife, for scaring off my assistant, for ruining my life. Like, it's at the point where all the resentment comes bubbling up, and they have the conversation that Harry promised faithfully they wouldn't have.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it from that perspective, where he's doing the one thing that he swore he would not do, which was talk about feelings.
Yeah, they're definitely talking about their feelings here.
Right. I like that he tells Carl to shut up and apologize, and then Carl's just like, how do I shut up?
How can I do that? Yeah, how can I shut up and apologise?
Has Sadie ever done that to you?
Yeah, that would be something that my 3-year-old daughter would very much do. She'd pick up on the inconsistencies in what I was saying. So that tells you the mentality of Carl.
That's like, it's, you know, like when you tell somebody, like, hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
So Harry decides that he has got to get to London to find Linda. So he leaves the beach and he gets in a cab, and he's asking the cabbie, you know, is there no super fast hydrofoil? Is there a catamaran? It's just a plane, right?
Yeah, there's no other option for him. And I think this is my favourite bit in the whole film, and certainly the bit that sort of stuck out in my memory when I was thinking about it, when I was talking about it. And the people that I canvassed in the JLB group and on Facebook, and people that I spoke to generally about the film, all remembered this bit where he is absolutely terrified of getting on a plane and completely freaks out.
Yeah, when he's on the plane, April.
Oh, from Peep Show, from University Challenge, yeah.
Yeah, she, like, the middle passenger, and David Mitchell's face is just so goddamn funny in the scene because he's, like, sweating and his eyes are, like, bugging out, and he just looks so scared.
Yeah, he's sweaty and terrified.
And April's like, oh, would you like a piece of gum? It can help with the air pressure. And he's just like, he just looks at her, and the first thing he says is, I chopped my wife's head off. And she's just like, okay, yeah. And he's like, if this plane crashes, it's going to be all my fault.
Yeah, so he thinks there's going to be some sort of divine retribution for cutting his wife's head off, and it's going to involve the plane going down in flames.
One thing that I had written is because it was a little unclear to me if he actually got off the plane at this point and then just took a cab to London. However, I was not aware that Jersey was an island, so you have cab to London circled with a little note that said, couldn't be a taxi, it's an island, you wanker.
Yeah, so Jersey is an island and he would have had to take a plane, but he's got off the plane at the other end and he gets in a cab to Linda's house.
There's a little like throwaway line where he's like, oh, thanks for driving so fast, maybe you should go back and check on that dog.
Yeah, that's really funny.
But as he gets out to go ring Linda's doorbell, Linda actually beats him to the punch and just rings him on the phone, and she's like, hey, where are you? You know, we've only got 2 hours before it's our time to be on stage. And he's like...
Yeah, and he pretends, doesn't he, he doesn't want to let her know that he's freaked out and gone to London, so he pretends to be in a solarium. Oh, yeah, so he he's pretending, isn't he, that he's he needs to go to the solarium, and she's like, but we need to practice now. And it's like, no, I will not move on this, I need to go to the solarium.
Right, and then this next part I really like too, because he jumps back on a plane to go back, and he's still again, just completely shaken about doing the plane flight. And
if anything, this is funnier, I think, than the first plane scene, because he's twice as terrified. Being obviously going on the plane once has not shaken his conviction that flying is terrible, and he is talking. He's sitting next to a man this time, isn't he? He's jabbering away to him. Yeah, there's a announcement over the PA where it's like, "Could Mr. Smith please make himself known?" And in Harry's head, that's just code. He says that he used to work at a supermarket. We'd play La Cucaracha if there was a fire. I'm telling you, that's code. We are all going to die. And he's doing like scared whispering, and he's sort of trying to keep his voice down, but it's not working because he's sort of shout whispering. And definitely that's my favourite line in the whole film. I think that's absolutely just has me in tears every time I see it. Yes, I used to work at Walmart, and they had, codes for like everything. Like if somebody peed on the floor or pooped on the floor, it was a code yellow. There was like code blue and all this stuff, and we had to know all these codes in case they ever happen. We had like contingency plans for all of them, and it's I think it's quite a common thing in retail. My friend Anya worked in a clothes accessories in Dublin, and they used to play Let's Get Ready to Rumble by PJ and Duncan if there was gonna like a fight had broken out outside. So clearly this is something that happens a lot in retail environments. All right, and now we're on new stuff. We're back in the game. We've not talked about it. My daughter's not awake. It's all good. We can get through this. We can. And Laura, again, I have to thank you because I know it is very late where you are. So don't worry, that's fine. No problem. I had a disco nap. I'm fine. All right, I appreciate you working with me here. No worries. So we're back at the Shield, and Tony is doing a pretty lame magic trick. Yeah, and it's absolutely shit, isn't it? And he's the audience are less than impressed, the judges are less than impressed, and he says the curtain's closed, and he says they're a bunch of hard nuts, and he says unless you can turn water into wine, this lot aren't interested. Yeah. Next we have Otto on the stage, and he brings out a TV, and he turns on the TV so he can see Carl buried up to his neck in the sand. And I know that you didn't like the Mr. Potato Head trick. I thought this was actually really, really funny. Yeah, I just thought it was a bit stupid, but yeah, it raised a smile, stupid. But yeah, it is really stupid. It was so stupid. Basically, what Mr. Potato Head is, he has a bucket put over his head so you cannot see Carl's face at all. He tells this kid to just take out random parts and design a Mr. Potato Head face. And then when they take the bucket off, Carl has like the exact same shit on his face. It is so stupid, but oh my god, it made me laugh every time that I watched this movie. Where he's like, "Oh, it's Mr. Potato Head." The bit that did make me laugh in that was, I think, Otto says something about and his childlike assistant, and it is literally a child. There's like a 4-year-old standing there with a bucket. Oh yeah. The next. Yeah, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, the next magician that comes out, I really couldn't understand what they said his name is. It sounded like they said Dietmar the Clown or something like that.
Yes, I don't disagree with your name there. I don't know what he was called, but yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, Wikipedia unfortunately fails me here because it just says the person who played him, but not what his
have it
actual...
on IMDb. It doesn't have it either, so we'll never know.
We'll never know. We're just going to go with Dietmar. But Peter Capaldi has a really funny line here where he's like, and I do need to let you know that this performance contains a trouser drop, and the item displayed, no matter how realistic looking, is not his actual penis and scrotum.
And he says that local bylaws require him to tell the audience, which really made me laugh because that is a real thing over here where that's often the case in different places as you travel around the country, that you'll be made aware of local bylaws, particularly for like pubs and stuff like that. So that I thought that was a really funny touch.
The magician that plays Dietmar, his name is Ollie Bongo. And, I mean, it's still his Wikipedia page. I mean, he seems to be, like, pretty prolific. But we have Harry rushing back to the Shield while Dietmar is doing his little weird routine. He's getting dressed, and as he's getting dressed in the background, you just see Dietmar pull his pants down, and there's, like, a very, like, pronounced fake penis. And
I really laughed at this as well because the fact that Peter Capaldi's character had gone to such pains to tell the audience that it wasn't real, and even from a distance I don't think that would look real. It was very clearly not real.
Oh yeah, it's very clearly not real, but you know, I actually think it, because the background is a little blurry, I actually think that if I hadn't just watched this scene in a nutshell, that I would have thought he was, like, really pulling his dick out, but...
Yeah, you might be right, yeah.
We go back to Otto on the beach with Carl, and they're digging Carl out of the hole, and this was probably the start of one of my favorite running jokes through the last half of this movie, is Otto is prepping Carl for the meeting tonight, and he basically says, like, hey, Carl, if you say anything that undermines my bargaining position, I'm just going to say Courtney Cox.
Yeah, that's their code word.
And also, Carl was wearing a wetsuit while he was buried in the sand. So Otto kind of like unzips the back of his wetsuit and kind of rolls the top down. He puts a towel around him and is kind of like pulling him close. And Carl's just like, you know, hey, I'm not gay. And Otto is like, what? I'm not gay either. You're the one that's gay.
Gay? It's not the 80s. That was, I like that line. That was funny.
And then as they're walking off, Otto just calls out and he's like, remember, if it's all going tits up, I'm going to drop the magic word. Courtney Cox.
Great safe word.
Oh, that's going to become my new safe word, is Courtney Cox.
Yeah.
And I like that he makes a joke that he's like, oh, well, you can bring Courtney Cox into every conversation. I think that was probably the most dated reference in this entire movie.
Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, who's still thinking about Courtney Cox? She's not on my radar anymore.
No, could you imagine if you were in a meeting and you just started talking about Courtney Cox? People would be like, the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure in 2007 if Courtney Cox was still...
No, I mean, Friends have been over for, 3 years by then?
Oh, longer I think longer than that. Because I think it ended in, 2000.
No, it didn't. It ended in 2004, definitely.
No.
Yeah, it ended the year I went to university, so that's definitely true.
Oh, well, let's see what Google... Oh, fuck, you were right. May 6th, 2004. Okay, so... Yeah. She was still somewhat relevant. That's weird. I could have sworn that Friends ended before I joined the military.
No, it was the day after my then boyfriend's birthday, the year I went to university, because we watched it together. I remember very well.
Oh, interesting. Good to know. Good to know.
Good knowledge, yeah. Good friends knowledge.
So then we go back to the Shield tournament, and Harry and Linda are doing the levitation trick, and everybody's applauding, and it's fine, and they're all happy, and Linda's like, well, I want to know where you went, because he ends up confessing that he did decapitate his wife, and going...
She's very laid back about it, isn't she, actually?
Yeah. She says, well, actually, I'd be more worried about doing the guillotine trick. Do you hear me pause every time I start to say that word?
Yeah.
I'm making sure I'm pronouncing it right. She's like, I'd be more worried about doing a guillotine trick with someone who hadn't cut off his wife's head. Something about lightning plus lightning doesn't strike twice, and Harry's just like, well, actually it does.
And this is very indicative of her whole outlook, isn't it? She says she's a glass half full kind of person. We've already said that she's quite chilled about things. She's quite easygoing, and this shows it more than ever that she's very forgiving. She's got a very, very sunny outlook on life.
Except for the end of the scene here, because she's trying to, like, I don't know, put the moves on Harry, and he's just like not interested, and she's like, well, fine, fuck you then.
Yeah, she's having none of it.
Yeah. Now we go to Carl and Otto's meeting. Oh my god, this TV show sounds horrific.
It sounds exactly like the sort of thing they would put on the telly, though. Like, I don't know about over there, but certainly the daytime schedules on ITV are a prime for this. This would fit right in.
There was I'm actually looking up who this was. There was a on the Sci-Fi Network, there was a show about a medium that he would do. John Edwards, yeah. What was it called? Crossing over. Yeah.
Yes, that's been on TV over here. We've had that. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so it really sounds like that they're just trying to do Crossing Over with John Edward, but have the Mindmonger as, have it be have it be the Mindmonger instead of Carl, or instead of John Edwards.
And I really enjoyed the male TV executive in this scene is, I'm not sure of the actor's name, but he plays Clive in Grandma's House, which was a sitcom over here with Simon Amstell, who's a big deal. He's a stand-up comedian. And he's marvellous in that, and he's very funny here. He says that he wants the Mindmonger the format of the show could maybe be that he talks to murder victims from the afterlife and gets them to say who murdered them. That would be a great show. Like, of course, that'd be marvellous. So that really made me laugh. And then the female exec jumps in and says, or they could do like a review show of TV of the week and get famous intellectuals or Mozart to comment on it.
And then as they're starting to really talk about the show and what they want, Carl is just Courtney Cox. Courtney Cox.
Courtney Cox.
Like screaming Courtney Cox. And Otto is just like completely oblivious to Carl's like desperate pleas for help. And
then he says, doesn't he, just really likes Friends? So he's obsessed with Friends.
Yeah, he's just with Friends. Yeah. But one thing that I do kind of like about Carl is that I don't think that Mindmonger is really what Carl wants to be, because he is continuously trying to get out of the Mindmonger persona, and nobody lets him do it.
No, he knows, and in the next scene, actually, he knows it's not right, doesn't he? He knows it's wrong, and he does say in the next scene, where him and Danny are walking on the beach the next day, he says that magic's got traditions, it's got codes of conduct and things you don't do, and that this is one of the things you just don't do.
Yeah, and I really think that shows like a good side of Carl.
Yeah, he's got some integrity. He doesn't necessarily act on that integrity, but he does know what's right and wrong, and in his heart, he does want to be a good magician.
He's very different from Jeremy in that regard, because, like we were talking last week about how Jeremy just is not really in control of his own sexual destiny. I feel that there's a little bit of that same aspect with Carl here, but that he's much more, that he has principles and he has morals, and by God, he is not going to violate those principles and morals.
No. I agree with you.
Yeah, so we kind of have already been talking about this scene, but the next day after the meeting, Carl and Danny are walking on the beach, and he's kind of trying to talk to Danny, and he's, basically saying, like we were kind of talking about, that he doesn't want to be a medium. Danny's like, oh, is that because it's so draining on you? And he's like, no, it's not because it's draining. And she's like, oh, I think...
He says, doesn't it? Sorry, go on.
Oh, she's like, oh, I think that's cool that you can contact the dead. Can you channel the spirit of my father? And he's just like, no. And she kind of like begs him. So he's like, yes. And he puts his fingers on the side of his head. And he's like, I'm trying, but the ectoplasm is too thick. But that just impresses Danny even more. She's like, oh my God, you were able to reach over to the other side. And he's just like, oh my fucking God.
Not really,
don't want to deal with this anymore.
There is a bit that really made me laugh here as well, where he says that getting on TV is really hard and you can't just ring in and say you're going to fill in for Jamie Oliver. And then Danny replies, yeah, but anyone can make a sandwich and just go on and on about it. You can contact the dead, which really made me laugh.
Is Jamie Oliver, is it like a cooking show or something?
Yeah, he's a TV chef, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Next, we have the dinner where they determine the next round of contestants. Peter Capaldi has like a really funny bit here where, he's talking about how they have to have a certain amount of female contestants to fit the demographic, and
it certainly is something you've put in your notes to ask about affirmative action in England, and certainly it is a thing, for arts funding and things like that. We hear about that there has to be certain demographics of people that they let in, and obviously we've just had all this, I don't know if you've heard about this scandal with the pay gap in the BBC and the fact that women are like for like being paid so much less than men. So it's something that's come up in the news in the last few days, is whether or not we should be getting more women into these jobs and stuff. So it definitely is a hot topic.
Yeah, I actually saw something on, because my Twitter feed is decidedly British, just based off of who has sent us friend requests after the Matt King tweet. And I've seen people kind of posting, and actually what's funny is the trending section in my Twitter, in the show's Twitter feed, tends to lean towards what's trending in Britain and not what's trending in the United States.
I think before I sort of started using it more, and before Matt King tweeted, it was more American because there were some American stories coming up. But now I agree the Twitter feed has gone very British now.
Yeah, it's like, man, this guy must have moved to a different country. Like,
it must be confused because it's being accessed on 2 different continents. It must be like, what the fuck is going on?
That's actually my favorite. I was telling my wife about this today. That's actually my favorite thing about the Twitter feed, is that you can 100% tell tweets you send out and tweets I send out. Like,
yeah, I thought maybe we should start like putting our initials on them, and then I thought, oh, no point. You can totally tell. Like, it doesn't matter.
I know, like, I tweeted today about going to a baseball game. You tweet about watching British television. I tweet about going to local pro wrestling shows. You tweet about, Sam Bain's new comedy. So, I mean, it's pretty like cut and dry.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
What tweet.
But it must be absolutely fucking with the algorithms. They don't know what's going on.
Or could you imagine somebody who was not aware that we're from 2 different countries, and they're like, the fuck? Why does this person sound so like schizophrenic?
This person is schizophrenic, yeah.
But the finalists for the Shield are Greg. Why did you write Davis?
Because it's Greg Davis is the name of the person that they say.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Greg Jess. Okay, it's that fucking accent.
Yeah, and that comes. I've got a note on that later, but that's not yet. So I'll talk more about Greg Davis in a minute.
All right. So it's Greg Davis, Dietmar, Magibot, the remarkable. I couldn't even understand what he said after that.
I'm not sure. No.
Manda the Panda, which. Manda the Panda, I think, is a great underappreciated character in this movie, because you see her so much and she's just dressed like a panda.
Yeah, she appears in the background.
Yeah, and you never hear her. She doesn't really say anything. You only see one trick that she does, but she's like omnipresent throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Of course, Carl Allen and Tony White. And so at this point, I was like, okay, is maybe one of these people going to get killed? Is Harry going to kill one of them to
because he's a psychopath?
Because he's a psychopath. And then Peter Capaldi's like, oh, and of course Harry Kane and Linda. We needed Linda because even though she's an assistant, she is a woman, and so we've got to have another woman in the
she
finals.
doesn't count because she's an assistant.
Yeah. So they decide to take a picture of everybody, kind of like a finalist picture. This is the part where like Harry and Carl like really start to have it out, because Tony just kind of casually asks Carl what he's gonna do, and Carl's like, oh, I'm gonna do a medium, and Harry starts kind of laughing at him and about it, and he just looks at Harry. Carl just looks at Harry and he's like, well, what's so good about pretending to draw endless flags from a hat? Isn't it better to produce hope from the other side? And then Harry just looks at him and he's like, sure, it's just right for you. It's phony, it's manipulative, it's dishonest. What do you even see on the other side? Plato? Millions of Chinese peasants? Bob Hope?
And then I was about to say, then Jez says no. Then Carl says, I can see Carol, your wife, with her head cut off and the head's on the floor crying, which is a really low blow.
I felt that was a really, really low blow as well, because
that's cold as ice.
But here's the thing: is that Harry opened himself up to that attack.
That's true. He did. Yeah.
Where did he think that this conversation was going to go?
Yeah, you're right. It's always gonna, if it's gonna get nasty, it's always gonna end up being about how you cut your wife's head off.
Exactly. I mean, it was, like I said, it was a pretty low blow, but it was also one that he just completely left himself open for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody kind of goes their separate ways. Oh my God. Sorry. There's a line in this that there's a line in this next scene that is really cracks me up. But Otto and Carl are kind of hanging out in front of, oh God, in my notes I wrote, Otto continues to razz Jeremy about Danny. But Otto and Carl are kind of hanging out. Is Jersey like full of casinos, or is it kind of like because it looked almost like Las Vegas to me.
No, I don't think so. I think it's quite it's got like a town, but it's not. It's fairly small. I don't think it's full of casinos.
Okay, because this street that they were on just seemed to be like busy and lit up, and I was a little like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like I don't think it's got a city. I think it's got like a large town. I don't know. It's not. I've never been, but it's not how I understand Jersey is like that. But maybe there are bits of it that are.
But this is where we find out another previously unmentioned piece of information about Carl, is that he is apparently been impotent for the last 4 years since Carol's death.
Yeah, your last lay, your best friend's wife died, which it's not a good lay for you, is it? He says.
No. But this next line from Otto, I wish you could see how bright red my face is right now, where he starts talking about the vagina and he's like, great hairy flaps all flying around. I was like, oh God.
Yeah. That's it's too graphic. I think that would be fair to say.
Oh my God. It was I had to like pause and really ask myself if I even want to like mention this line, because it just makes me a little red-faced. But yeah, it was a very funny line.
It's very funny.
It goes into they meet up with a stooge in a restaurant, and the stooge he objects to being called a stooge.
Yeah, he says, I'm not a stooge, I'm a magician. And Carl says, just to clarify, we're paying you the stooge's rate, right?
Yeah. And he shows like his, he's like, a normal stooge, they'll react like, what? Me? But I react like, what? Me? Did you see the pause there?
Yeah, he does it. He does it a little more understated, doesn't he? And the stooge is Neil's dad from the In-Betweeners, and he plays it very well. He's very funny as the stooge. And the bit that really made me laugh was he talks about the trip when you're going up to the stage, have a little trip, and he says even Hamlet's a piece of piss if you can handle the trip. So that really made me laugh. I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, that's the whole Stooge scene really cracked me up, especially like you said when he's talking about like the little trip up the stairs and all that stuff. That was really funny.
Yeah.
So now we go to Carl's room and he's with Danny, and Carl is really worried about his performance in bed, but Danny thinks that he's just nervous about the magic trick tomorrow.
Yeah, and he's really nervous, and he tries to confess to Danny about his impotence since the Carol situation, but she's not getting the insinuation, is she? He's gonna have to either spell it out to her or give up.
No, and she just tells him like, why don't you project a thought into my mind and I'll see if I can receive it? And he's just like, Danny, and she's like, is it a squirrel? Is it a hexagon? A squirrel trapped in a hexagon?
Why would it be a squirrel in a hexagon? She's obviously mental. That was what I thought there, was that she's clearly insane.
Yeah, I really think that she is just trying to, that she just really believes in this stuff and that she wants to be, she wants this to be something that's real, whether, it is or not.
Yeah.
Next we go to Harry, and he's in the hotel room with Linda. He's chilling a bottle of champagne in a toilet, or sorry, I guess they're talking about the trick, and he excuses himself to go into the bathroom, and then while he's in there, he pulls a bottle of champagne out of a toilet. I don't know why he is using the toilet.
So it's in the cistern of the toilet, isn't it? Which I think is because it's a cheapo hotel. That was my guess, was that there was nowhere else that he could chill it, and also because it's hidden in there. That was my assessment, was that he was trying to keep it a secret, so it was hidden in the cistern of the toilet.
Yeah. And then as he's in there, he's just like, let's cut the bullshit, Linda, and have a great big screw.
That's a very Mark line.
Right. And then unfortunately for him, and this is so... I know that we talked about in Peep Show, where we talked about how the joke kind of landed a little flat. The fact that she finds a pros and cons list, I think that if you had seen him writing that list first, this joke would have been funnier.
Yeah.
But the fact that...
I agree with you. It came a bit out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah, the fact that you just never really see him even writing this list, and then all of a sudden it's this huge major plot point where she's reading off the cons: dance, bum, unstable / mental, and the entire time that she is listing off the cons, Harry is like, but you gotta read the pros. You gotta read the pros. And she talks about how bum is both on con and pro.
Yeah, what does that even mean? It's massive, but you like it? yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. And then she just says, Harry, you are an emotionally retarded coward with a Hitler haircut.
Oh, cold. This was actually, I did want to say about this scene as well, that this was when you mentioned earlier on with the finalists, and it was saying about Greg Davis. The Harry says something about, he's talking about who the competition is, and Linda says Greg Davis, and he says he's always going to have the charges hanging over him, unfounded of course, but Greg Davis over here is a really popular comedian now, which he wasn't then. It's just really unfortunate that Greg Davis is a person with a very successful career, but when this was made he was unknown, so to English ears that sounds very weird that it's like they're talking about the real Greg Davis being a pedo.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, and so unfortunate for Greg Davis.
Is the Greg Davis the comedian? Is he in this movie, or is he the comedian?
Is there a Canadian Greg Davis?
Let's see here. I don't see anybody on IM. Oh, Greg Davis is played by a person named James Malore, so it's not the actual Greg Davis.
Okay, yeah, so it's not the British Greg Davis either, who is a comedian. So it's clearly just a name they've made up, but unfortunately there are at least two famous Greg Davises now, and for us as Brits, he's a very famous comedian in lots of things. He was in The Inbetweeners, and it's just sounds really weird to us now.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's been on Inbetweeners.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in The Inbetweeners.
We go to our next scene, and we see Carl and Danny in a hotel room. This was honestly, from start to finish, my favorite scene in this entire episode, or in this entire movie. Carl's really excited because he's got a stayer, and before they, do the deed, Danny wants her to try contacting the spirit of her dad again, and Carl's just like, oh my god, I don't want to do this, but I want to have sex with her, so okay, I guess I'm gonna pretend to channel this.
And she wants to know, doesn't she, if the dad would want her to study media studies or accounting, which made me laugh because they're pretty disparate
subjects.
I thought
the exact same thing. I was like, media studies and accounting. It's like two very separate worlds. And I like how she says media studies would help me follow my heart, but accounting is the more acceptable job or something like that. And he's just like, Carl's like, your dad says to follow your heart. And she's like, well, what does that mean? And he's just like, he says accounting. And then Danny's just like, yeah, gotta follow in the old man's footsteps.
And then she asks him to ask the dad what he thinks of him. And Carl says he's a very respectable young man. And she looks confused by this, doesn't she? And she says it's not the sort of thing he would have said.
Yeah, and then she's worried that her dead dad has started drinking again, and he
sounds drunk. Oh god, he started drinking again.
Yeah, and then Carl here just is like, look, I'm not a medium. I can't really do any of this stuff that I am doing for you. Magic is supposed to be about a laugh, and she's like, well, this isn't very funny. And then she just kicks him out of the room, and he's naked. One thing I didn't understand, though, how the fuck did she kick him out of his own room?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I guess she just, she felt she had the moral high ground, so she just threw him out.
If I was Carl, I would have been like, no.
No, you go. Yeah, no. You leave.
We're not going to play this game. Like, no, it's you that's going to get the fuck out of here.
But then the next joke wouldn't have worked, I guess, because he then wanders into Otto's room and Otto completely misunderstands Carl's nakedness and says, play your little games, Carl.
Yeah. I like that part. Next we have to get, of course, with any good movie, you've got to have a montage.
You've got to have a montage. Even Rocky had a montage.
Yeah. Wait, which movie had a montage?
Do you know Team America? That was a Team America joke.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah. God damn it. Sorry. Fuck. I totally missed that. That joke flew over my head. And I love... By the way, I really love that movie.
Great movie.
It plays on so many levels. I love it. And especially the time when that movie came out over here... really that was a really edgy movie. I felt like when it came out over here.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
So in the montage, Carl is practicing throwing a ball over his shoulder, like a little tennis ball or basketball through a hoop. The Stooge is practicing his signature stumble. Harry is prepping the guillotine for his trick routine with Linda, and Dwight brings Tony his vanishing flower trick, which I thought was a nice little father-son moment.
Yeah, they have a little touching father-son moment there, don't they?
Yeah. So now we get to the S.H.I.E.L.D. finals, and Peter Capaldi, Mike is so funny here because he's backstage and he's introducing himself very enthusiastically, and then he just comes out on stage and he's like, "Oh my gosh, wow, what a great entrance! Oh, such a good entrance."
He's very pleased with himself.
Yeah. We have Magibot up first, and he's doing his, little trick routine. You wrote direct from the US of A. Is that where they introduced him from?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I completely missed that.
Yeah.
Boy, I can't believe the American missed a reference to America.
Yeah, and direct from the US of A, isn't he?
Backstage we see Otto and Carl, and Otto is kind of rubbing Carl's back, and he's like, "Focus, I love you. Focus." Yeah,
and Carl's just sort of ignoring this sexy talk.
Yes. This is a little funny part too, where Tony like bumps into Harry, and again, I think to kind of rattle Harry, he tells Harry that him and Linda hooked up with each other.
Yeah, and Carl says, I can't remember what Tony says, but Carl says, "You're right, Tony, you big crap." I'm sorry, yeah, it says, "All right, Tony, you big crap magician," and this sets off a back and forth where Tony says that he slept with Linda. She sucks the warm real good. There was loads of jizz. and obviously Harry is most upset by this.
Yes. And then, of course, it's Tony whose turn it is to come out on stage, and he comes out on stage to do Dwight's vanishing flower trick. And I sent you this message in Facebook Messenger because I thought his little comment here was really, really funny, where he's like, "You guys gave the Nazis a warmer welcome than that."
Yeah, that is probably as one of the strongest lines in the film. I would say it's very, very funny. And obviously, Jersey was invaded by the Nazis. It was the only bit of Britain that was invaded by the Nazis. So that's, if anyone doesn't know their history, that's why that joke works.
Oh, okay, yeah. I assumed that was the case.
Yeah, there was. I don't know if it was a full occupation. There was some occupation. I think that all of the Channel Islands maybe were occupied by German forces, but they were. But obviously they're much closer to France than they are to Britain, so it makes sense that they would have been occupied by the Nazis. But obviously it's still part of Britain.
That's why I assumed that Jersey was in like France or something like that, because they're talking about the Nazi occupation.
It's really close to the coast of Brittany, and if you look on the map, it's a long way from Britain, but it belongs to us. I don't pretend to know the historical reasons why it belongs to us, but it does.
So Tony does Dwight's vanishing flower trick. The other line that I love that Tony says, he's just like, "Oh, this is a trick I invented."
Yeah, which is just horrible after their little father-son moment in the last scene. That's really horrible that he sells his son out.
And then you have Dwight looking out at the stage, and he hears his dad taking complete credit for the trick that he invented, and Dwight just is like, "What a fucking asshole."
Yeah, yeah.
Harry goes to confront Linda about sleeping with Tony. First off, Harry has no right to confront Linda on this.
No, and he says, "Oh, I have a right to know." And it's like, well, why do you have a right to know, you prick? Like, he definitely doesn't. That's really out of order.
No. He has zero right to... Sorry, cat. He has zero right to know what's going on and what happened between Linda and Tony. And I love when Linda's just like, "Oh, I screwed him raw, and what did you... I'll say this. Yeah, I screwed him raw and then chugged on his big hairy man or something."
Yeah,
like that.
His big hairy mancock, and and then Harry's like, "Good, glad you did. Happy chugging," and that's how they part. She sort of storms off, and we see then that. Do we see then that Carl has seen it all? He's heard it all. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Carl is hearing all of this as their conversation ends, though, and Linda storms off.
Yeah.
The guillotine kind of goes by, and it's this like close up on David Mitchell's face, and then it's this close up on the blade. And so when you take it through my determination, which is that Harry is a complete psychopath, you're like, oh, okay, well, you start to see the gears kind of turning in his head about how he's going to try to murder Linda.
Yeah, that's the psychopath reading of the film, is that, he's going to kill her.
Yeah. Then it's Carl's turn to go out on stage, and Carl is, talking about how he's going to reach into the ectoplasm and, talk to the spirit of the dead. He's going to use the spirit orb to find somebody, and he turns his back and he throws the spirit orb, and it goes directly to the Stooge.
And the Stooge then... Sorry, what happens then? I've lost my place in the notes. The Stooge... Oh, there it is.
Oh, sure. He throws the orb to the Stooge, Jason, and he asks the Stooge what his name is,
Jason
and he says
trips
Jason.
And falls. He does his little stumble, but he trips and hits his head. and Carl thinks that it's part of the act, but he actually has knocked himself out cold.
Yes, this part's really funny. He invites Jason up on the stage to help penetrate the ectoplasm. As he gets up on stage, he does a little stooge stumble, but this time he just kind of whiffs it and just like completely eats shit on the stage and, gives himself a concussion.
Yeah, so that at this point, Carl is completely and utterly fucked. He doesn't know what to do, so he then starts sort of fishing in the audience and saying that he's got a message from John something, and he throws the orb out and a woman catches it, and she then starts talking about how she lost someone. Has he got a message because he never got to say his last words because the ventilator was too loud, so she couldn't hear them. And,
oh my god.
And Carl just looks petrified.
Yeah, that part really cracks me up when she starts talking about, like her dead husband and, all this freaking stuff about, I couldn't hear him because the ventilator was too loud. And he's just, you see Carl's face, like, just getting, like, more and more sullen because he's just like, oh my god, I cannot, like, do this to another person. And
no, so this is where his integrity does actually come out that we talked about earlier, and he says, I can't do it. Anyone that says they can do it is a liar. It's all bollocks. Cynical careerist or in the best possible, like, deluded schizos. And he does, like, a mic drop and just leaves the stage.
One thing that I like is while this is going on, Otto is like has the remote control and he's like ringing the bell and he's like screaming Courtney Cox from backstage, and
yeah,
it's very funny. Carl is kind of backstage at this point and he's like really upset, and Linda kind of comes over to him and she's like, oh, it's okay. This is when Carl kind of delivers an ominous warning to Linda where he's just like, hey, you should be a little concerned about the guillotine trick.
I got the feeling at this point he was like a man with nothing to lose. He was like, fuck it, I've absolutely blown this all apart, so I'm going to just, tell the truth. I'm going to tell it to people how it is. So he tells Linda that, he says something like, make sure that you check the mechanism, like, repeately.
Yeah.
Triple, you goaded him, triple check.
But when you look at it from my perspective, like, he's really doing a good thing by trying to warn her here,
Yeah, absolutely. No, if Harry is a murderous psychopath, then Carl is doing the right thing.
Yeah, he's being a 100% good mate here and, trying to protect Linda's life.
Yeah.
Anyways, Carl goes to find Harry, and Harry is just standing backstage, and he's just, like, bashing his head against a pipe.
Yeah, like a complete mental case. And Carl just says, don't murder her. Don't murder her.
Yeah, and then Harry's just like, oh, is that why you haven't been able to apologize for me all these years? Like, because you think I murdered her?
Yeah, and then he says, well, yeah, and he's like, I didn't. And then Carl says, well, prove it. And Harry says, well, I can't prove it. There's no way I can prove it. And then he says, it's easier for you to think that I'm a murderer than it is to face up to all the guilt you've got about screwing your best friend's wife.
I also, and I don't want to steal your thunder because I see this in your notes as well. I thought Black Widower, so his stage name that he's going by for this trick is Black Widower, and I just thought, I was like, wow, he's not even trying to be fucking subtle at this point.
No, so he gets called on stage and Peter Capaldi says in a very sort of like dramatic tone, like he gives it the full X factor and says that he is Harry Kane, the Black Widower, and it is so tasteless.
But the guillotine is on stage and it is covered in like a black cloth, and he comes out in like a black, I don't know, like black shirt, black pants, just, black.
Yeah, he's a little bit like Phantom of the Opera, isn't he? He's got a cape and it's all very dramatic. And Linda comes on and she's got like a full Black Widow, like a widow outfit on. She's in full mourning, like Victorian mourning regalia. And Peter Capaldi says, this is so sick, it might even make papers.
Oh, it was so funny. And then, so basically Harry gets Linda in position to do the guillotine, and
the audience is absolutely on edge, isn't it? Because the two idiots from earlier on are holding hands, and we see that they're like so nervous they're holding hands.
I forgot about that. Yeah, everybody in the audience is just completely on edge about this trick, and Linda, I don't know, kind of has a little bit of a panic attack here, and
Does she though? Does she bottle it, or is that part of the act?
oh my fucking god, I never even thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah, because does she pretend to bottle it so that Carl will get involved?
No, I don't think maybe that's, oh shit, maybe that's what she wants. Holy fuck, maybe this whole movie is Linda manipulating Harry to get what she wants.
Yeah, see, that's how I read it, was that she pretends to bottle it so that they'll come back together.
See, I looked at it as she legitimately was thinking about what Carl had to say and realized that she is working with a complete psychopath, and that if he killed one woman, he's probably willing to kill again.
Yeah, I totally get that reading of it. That's not how I saw it. So you decide which one is what they've intended. I don't know, but yeah. So she either completely is terrified because Carl's just warned her that he's a murderous psychopath, or she wants to get the band back together and she pretends to bottle it in order for that to happen.
But I like after she leaves the stage, Harry is just kind of looking out in the crowd, and he's like, well, does anybody else want to be my assistant? And it's like crickets.
Yeah, no one wants to be his assistant. And then Carl comes back on stage and says, Blackwood or I will face the blade of fear.
Yeah, and
he apologises to Harry, doesn't he, for what happened.
I really... The whole part where he's like strapping Carl into the guillotine, and Carl's just like talking, and he's like kind of blubbering at that point, and he's just like, I should probably stop talking.
He's just jabbering on, and Harry's got an absolute poker face about it, and he doesn't show how he feels in any way, and he just forces Carl's head down onto the block and gets everything in place for the trick.
This is the part where he starts talking about how he resisted her for years.
Yeah, that was sorry, that wasn't the earlier on, that is now, where he says that he resisted her for years.
Yeah, I'm looking at both of our notes, and I realize, yes, that is
where it happened.
Yeah, and he starts to have second thoughts here because he realizes like a complete and utter psychopath is, strapping him into this thing, and
Harry does appear to be reacting badly to it, doesn't it? You do have a moment where you think, oh Christ, what's he going to do?
I really like how they shot this next part because it's from the front and you see the blade fall and his head just, falls into the basket, and I was just like, holy Christ, he killed him too, fucking psychopath.
The first time I saw this, I absolutely thought he'd killed him. Like, I thought that was going to be the twist in the tale, was that he killed his friend too.
But he picks up the bucket that should have the head in there. He turns it out and turns it over, and this ribbon just kind of starts pouring out of it. And then you see Carl up in the audience. He's up in like one of the balconies, and he's like tied up or something like that. And everybody's just going like fucking crazy for those two.
Yeah, the crowd goes absolutely wild, doesn't it? And they sort of, look at each other, and he's all forgiven and gives a little bow.
Mm-hmm. Carl goes for a hug, but Harry just shakes his hand instead.
Yeah. And they go off stage, and then Peter Capaldi comes on and he says, I don't think anyone has quite seen a final like that, and I in no way mean that in a positive way.
I really enjoyed the little award ceremony they have here, because Tony wins the award for most innovative trick, but really he just stole Dwight's trick.
Yeah, and he doesn't even have the good grace to admit that it wasn't his invention.
No.
And
doesn't he even say something along the lines of like, oh yeah, this is a trick that I just came up with, or something like that?
Yeah, he does. And he then, as well, he isn't even gracious in his winning, because he starts giving a little fuck you to people that have screwed him over previously, doesn't he? So he's just an arsehole, really, in this bit.
Oh, and then Harry, of course, wins the magician's shield, and he starts to, he thanks Carl, and he thanks Carl for kind of bailing him out, and then he calls Linda up on stage, and he confesses publicly that he loves Linda, and then Linda's like, "Oh, you love me?" And he pulls her close, and he's like, "I don't really love you, but I knew it would get you on the stage, but I figure we can just give it a shot and see where it goes."
Yeah, I like you a lot, and in time, I'm sure I'll learn to call those feelings love. And I really loved as well at the shield that they win is just shit. It's like a crappy school shield that teams win for like rugby, and it's rubbish. And this is, I know there's like a cash prize, but this is clearly the physical manifestation of the prize that they've all been working so hard for, and it's rubbish.
Yeah. One other little funny bit here that is not funny when you view it, but when you read interviews is pretty funny, is Linda and Harry kiss each other at this point. David Mitchell was very uncomfortable kissing her, and actually has said that he would have preferred to kiss Robert Webb instead of her, because they had kissed before and it wasn't a big deal for the two of them to kiss. So when I do see them kissing, he does look very like kind of
Yeah, it's not. He's not a great actor there. It's quite clear that he's uncomfortable.
So we get kind of the resolution of kind of all the stories. I really think that these two ending scenes should have been flipped around.
Yeah, it's a bit weird that they're this way around. I agree with you.
Yeah, so we get the magician show, and Danny and Linda are both doing Linda's gay bar dance.
In the funkiest costumes as well, like the most sequined lycra costumes that you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, they look like flappers from like the 1920s, like 1920s America. They look like flappers. Carl and Harry are doing the levitation trick, which earlier Harry had said to Linda that Carl didn't have the physical strength to do it. He's like stabbing Carl over and over with this sword in beat to gay bar. Very, very funny. And
we see a poster, don't we, that says it's a reunion tour, so we know that they're back together for good. This is the act now.
Yeah, I like Carl's face every time Harry stabs him, where he's like, oh, like makes his face where he's like, oh, and he just keeps doing it over and over. And then that was the end of the movie, and I really enjoyed it. Just kidding. The final scene is Tony is in front of a studio audience. It has become clear that Tony has gotten the job that was meant for Carl, because he is trying to cold read the audience, but he's doing it in his own Tony way, where he's like, is there anyone here who is female, under 25, and recently had a breakup? And this girl, who I thought was good looking, is like, hey, me. And he's like, oh, anyone else, maybe 25 to 30.
So yeah, he's basically just using this cold reading job now on the telly to do his hitting on 30 women a day thing.
Yeah. I just thought it was so weird that the movie ended with Tony and not Carl and Harry.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know why that was. It definitely, those two scenes should have been flipped. 100% agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Then we have the credits, and there's a post-credit scene. Not very funny post-credit scene, but basically Otto has buried himself up to the neck in sand, and he's calling Carl to come dig him out. There's a hand, like, it looks like the way he buried himself in the sand was he buried, like, one of his hands out of the sand next to his head because it's holding his cell phone.
Yeah, that wouldn't even work either, so that's stupid.
But when they zoom in on the hand, like, you can tell it looks like a very fake hand just kind of planted in the sand.
And yeah, that's the film.
That was the film. I don't know. I thought it was good, but not great.
Yeah, I think it's patchy for sure. And when I sort of asked people what they thought about it and was canvassing the Peep Show fans and other people I knew, everyone agreed, I think, that it was patchy. It was good but not great. And a friend of mine, Scott, said that he didn't think it exceeded the sum of its parts, which I think is a very accurate statement. It's got a lot more potential than it lives up to.
Yeah, I really liked all the magician stuff in there because I really love magic, and knowing that they were doing actual tricks, I really just thought that was pretty damn cool. And as you've probably heard us do it a couple times, Harry and Carl feel like kind of hybrid versions of Mark and Jeremy.
That is definitely the case, is that they are they're playing these extensions of Mark and Jeremy, and I know that I think you wrote this in your notes somewhere, but that Olivia Colman was they talked about her auditioning for the role of Linda, but they said they didn't want it to be like Peep Show the movie and an extension of Peep Show, and I think that would have been the final nail in the coffin to make it Peep Show the movie, because yeah, they are just those parts, really.
I'm glad that we watched it because it was a fun detour in the Mitchell and Webb verse. It was nice to kind of watch something a little different from Peep Show. I love Peep Show, but it was nice to kind of talk to you about something not 100% Peep Show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well that it's an interesting film. And someone on the JLBs pointed out, who was it? It was David Wood, who pointed out that one of the producers and fellow writers, Andrew O'Connor, he'd been a magician, or he'd been close to the magician's world, and he wanted to make a film that was about like the petty rivalries and the silliness that went on in the world of magicians, and it was really interesting to see that point of view. Like, if that's a real thing, that's interesting. So it was definitely an interesting little diversion, like you say. I like it. I've seen it more than once. Is it a masterpiece? No, it's not. But it is entertaining.
And Laura has also kind of taken over our social media and has worked very tirelessly on our WordPress page. So if you have not checked out the WordPress page, it's linked in the show notes. Please check it out. Laura's done a ton of hard work on there. She's also become a Twitter machine, and actually got a tweet from Steve Edge. He slid up in her DMs and sent her a pretty funny story about, filming magicians. So, Laura, if you want to just kind of talk about what Steve Edge told you.
Yeah, so I had a bit of back and forth with Steve Edge, which was great. I was very excited about, and I kind of asked him if he had any like stories or anecdotes or just anything that he could tell us about magicians and making magicians. And he got in touch to say that he had two really fond memories from when he was filming it. The first one was that he invented a game with two of the other actors, the guy that played his son, Rasmus, and Darren Boyd, who plays Otto. And they had a lot of downtime, so they invented this game called Hunchback Smash, where they had to hold a pool cue across the back of their necks with both hands, sort of like a half crucifix, So if you put it behind your neck, like you're threading it behind your neck and hold it, and then throw the ball as you shoot with little precision, because the crucifix is kind of hampering your accuracy, and they try and get the balls into the holes of the pool table that way, which it sounds like it would be very hard and pointless. So it obviously took up a lot of time, but I imagine it was quite funny to do and quite funny to watch. And the second was that they made up a game called Log Ball, where they jammed all the pockets of the pool table so that the balls didn't go in anymore. And they placed a bent log that they found in the fireplace in the other, which was riddled with knots and sharp bits. So if any ball hit it, you had to take the next two shots with that log rather than the pool cue. So they invented these two like crazy pool games that took up a lot of their time because they had so much downtime. And the other story he had was that there was a fire alarm one night at the hotel in Nottingham where they filmed a lot of it, and they all just gathered out. They gathered in whatever they could throw on, obviously at that point because there'd been a fire alarm, and David came down wearing a nightgown. And he says he likes to add that he was holding a candle and had a little hat on like Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. But he says that he's told the story so many times that he can't remember what's true and what's not. Definitely there was a nightgown, that he can't remember if there was a hat and a candle, but in his head now there is. So that really made me laugh. So thank you very much to Steve Edge for those anecdotes. They really brightened up preparing for this podcast, and it was great of him to get in touch. So thanks very much.
Yes, I really appreciate, Steve, I really appreciate you sending us those anecdotes. So thank you. This is the kind of stuff that people come to listen to this show for. So definitely really appreciate it. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's as a Peep Show fan and as a fan of all these comedians, that it's just really great to hear those little stories and the weird little anecdotes like that happen during filming and stuff. And it's really funny. So that's great.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. I definitely appreciate that. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Magicians, or are you?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered it pretty exhaustively.
Yeah, we're about like 2.5 hours, so I think that's a pretty good length for a feature length, a podcast about a feature length movie.
Yep.
So definitely appreciate everybody tuning and listening in to the show. I'm really excited to start season 3 of Peep Show, where we have mugging. So really looking forward to mugging.
Yeah, that's going to be great next week.
We are, and I think that this might be news to Laura, so if it is, I apologize. We are unfortunately going to not be releasing an episode on Wednesday the 9th. I'm going to be on vacation, so...
Oh, no, you did tell me that, yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember if I had told you that or not.
Yeah.
So, we're going to have an episode. We'll have mugging on... Let's see here. So this episode's going to come out on the 26th. We'll have mugging on the 2nd. We won't have an episode on the 9th. And then we will return on the 16th with one of my favorite episodes, Sectioning. So don't forget about us in that little off week. We promise that we will not try to miss any more weeks unless it is absolutely... unless it's, a complete impossibility.
Don't worry, while you're sunning yourself at Disney World, I'll be on Twitter, so...
Hey. I'm going to Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Thank you very much.
I don't know what's worse, to be honest. There we go.
So, Laura will be stoking the flames of social media on that week while I'm gone.
Yeah, definitely, I will be.
And again, I really want to say thank you to you, Laura, for everything that you've done with the WordPress page. She pretty much looked at it and was like, "Oh, this thing sucks. Well, let me see what I can do here." And I was just like, I don't really care about the WordPress page because I was just using it to get the episodes out, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She really did so much work on this page.
Oh, thank you. It's much jazzier now, so hopefully it's somewhere people are going to want to come and read stuff. So I'm probably a better writer than I am a talker. So that's I'm putting my skills to use.
Also, starting with the season 3 episodes, we are going to be putting the deleted scenes applicable to that episode up on the website. Basically, I'm just going to take the long video of the deleted scenes and just chop it up.
Yeah, I think that'll be good for people to be able to see what we're talking about because they're not necessarily widely known. So that'll be good. Yeah,
and so, like I said, we will be back on August 2nd. Wow, I can't believe it's already August.
I know.
With mugging. So with that, this is the L Dude Brothers signing off.
I am in loco parentis. I am the last remaining contestant of The Apprentice. I am the home trained dentist. Ay, 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 ay.